Can you tell us about the breeding of your Holbrook and Warrnambool Open winners?
Yes, I can, Phil. Have you got an hour or so to spare? It goes all the way back to 1979. The Bathurst winner at the Smash Bathurst was the best bird I'd had before and probably ever had since. And she bred a Bathurst winner in her own right in 1983. So I've preserved that line religiously and specifically ever since. And these two are off the current Bathurst family cock, pair of them, both the same pair of young birds.
Yeah, I've noticed that you did a lot better on the southeast line than what you did on the north line.
Yes, and that surprised me, and I'm going to do differently on the north next year. I've figured out where I went wrong, because north line's never been a problem for me, but this year it actually found me out in the final analysis.
How did you become interested in racing pigeons?
Well, I was a keen golfer in my 40s and played pennant golf for Mount Lofty, and with my brother-in-law Bob Gitcham. And Bob had quite a massive heart attack, and he, in those days, the treatment was not as it is today, and he was advised to just sit home and recover in his backyard. And Bob didn't even know where his backyard was, you know. Two or 3 years after we got into pigeons, he became General Secretary of the SHPA, because he was that sort of bloke. He was more interested in the admin than the birds. I was the opposite, but when he's sitting around, and I went to visit him often enough, and I remember that he told me he had some pigeons when he was a boy. So I said, why don't we put up a loft? If you're going to be here, why don't we? So we did. A couple of months later I was enthralled, and he was sick of them. But that's how I got into them.
Andrew, what was the origins of the stock birds that you keep?
Well, basically, Bob was a better thinker about how to get into this sport than me. We were starting together. We put up a bit of a loft, and he said, right, well, let's find out who can race pigeons in South Australia. So we got the top 20 from the previous year's SAHPA, rang them, visited them, and begged, borrowed or stole to get birds off them. And we got 2 or 3 decent birds out of them, about a dozen. And that's how we got started. We didn't actually steal them.
How many race birds would you breed for the coming race season, Henry?
Well, I always probably 30 pairs and 3 rounds. So I'd hope to be able to mount about 30 to 40 old birds and take the total up to around 200. I'd like to say you must have 150 or more if you want to compete all the way through. So that I don't like having that number. I'd rather have 150 or less, but it will again be 200, I'd expect.
When do you start training your pigeons, and what will the distance of the first toss be?
Well, my basic, I basically want to start on Anzac Day tossing. So I get them out and start trying to get them kitting about a month before that. So it's sort of March 20th, something like that. I'm starting to push them. And they're puffing, and they come down in 10 minutes. I reckon to get to Anzac Day, I require them to have been doing a decent kit, nice and tight feathered, and for doing an hour at least a full week before they go on their first toss, which is generally to Dublin or Port Param. That's where we start. And we didn't. I didn't, and I don't think Leo did either. We usually toss together, Leo Jerts. But Well, we didn't get started quite on the day, but we got started within 2 or 3 days of Anzac Day.
Single up training at all, Andrew?
Not for donkey's use, maybe back in the 1980s, but not in recent times, not at all.
No. Train by yourself, Andrew, or do you go with a couple of friends?
Well, I've got the arrangement out in my loft now that I can just drive the birds straight into my own unit. So I can be tossing literally out of the gate well under half an hour from when I decide I want to.
Right.
So in recent times I've been doing it on my own a bit, but nevertheless I still think of myself as tossing with Leo, Leo Jewitts, maybe particularly the first 2 or 3, but I didn't toss as much this year as I have in previous years.
Separate your cocks and hens at all, Andrew?
No, not at all. They fly together all the way.
What importance do you place on loft position?
Well, in the short races it can be critical in club racing, but in the races that really turn me on, the longer association racing, I don't think it matters much. You can be disadvantaged on the day occasionally, but your turn comes, and the disadvantage is very slight when you get out to 400 miles.
Yeah. The wind influences race results on the day, Andrew?
Yeah, wind on the day, particularly for the shorter races, and to a lesser extent in the middle distance and hardly at all long distance. But you can never anticipate the wind on the day. You just got to take your chance and hope that it turns your way.
Yeah. Do you think a retired person has an advantage over someone who works full-time, Andrew, when they're racing the pigeons?
Yes, I do, actually. I think if you're really going to aspire to be the best you can, you've got to be able to afford what you do, you've got to have the time to do it, and you've got to have the basic enthusiasm has to be white hot. Plus the fact that it's very handy if you're a naturally early bird. I wake up every morning around about 4 o'clock and I'm into, but so I had quite a lot of success when I was working long hours, but it's much easier when you're retired.
Yeah. Do you like racing latebreds? And if you do, is there anything different you would do with them?
Yes, I do, and I do things differently with latebreds. I keep them separate and train them in the afternoon, being retired, and they don't join in with the mob until I think they're ready. They probably have to go on a longer toss than they need. I give them a couple of short tosses on their own, but I've had a lot of success with latebreds around about Young Bird Championship Derby time, because that's when they're just coming of age and finding out about the opposite sex, and they will do anything to get home if they happen to be right.
Yeah. Increase the carbohydrate ration as the races get longer?
Yes, I do. And in fact, to the extent that in the end, towards the, well, maybe from 350 miles on through, I give them a mix of grains, and I just watch to see what they eat, and what they eat is what they get, and they finish up eating mostly maize, corn. Finish, yeah. They take a while to get used to swallowing the stuff. But certainly, yes. I don't worry about birds getting fat towards the end of the season. They don't.
Yeah. Is there anything different you would do for the longer races, Andrew, like as in feeding or training?
Yes, I would, and I do believe that I can improve on this season by doing so. I noticed that my performances on the longer distances on the north were a disappointment for me this year, and I may well toss the north birds a little more prior to their race. And I think I've probably laid them off of just a little bit too much.
Yeah. Do you medicate during the race season, and if so, what do you use?
Answer is no, big fat no. I virtually never use mass medication. I treat individual birds if I have to, and even at that, it's mainly for canker and conditions like that.
Yep.
So really the answer is pretty big fat no as far as medication is concerned.
Do you use any natural remedies like apple cider vinegar or garlic, Soil Andrew?
Yes, I do. I use apple cider vinegar a tiny bit in their water every day during the race season, but I've given garlic away. I don't do it anymore.
Right.
Then nothing else.
Yeah.
Oh, wrong. There's a probiotic I put in too, just a tiny bit.
Yeah. How would you describe a fit pigeon?
Well, that takes me straight back to that smash Bathurst winner in 1979. She was, I think, the fittest pigeon I've ever seen. And she'd already done young, which was over 500 miles, a fortnight before, and had rocked up about 9 o'clock the second day to be about my third bird from that event. And I thought, well, she's an early bred young'un, but she is a young'un, so that's the end of her. But she remained in the loft with the others, and matter of fact did a couple of tosses during that fortnight. When I came to select the team for Bathurst, I'm hampering away, and there she was. She was standing in the corner, and she was absolutely shivering and shining, and it's just hard to pick, but if you get a bird anywhere near like it, you'll know that she was just saying, send me, and I did.
Yeah. What's your favourite distance you like racing, Andrew?
I like to see 500 mile racing, whatever that 800k or something. And all my life I've tried to send every bird that I think's any good is likely to stay in my loft to 500 miles. So I guess it's my favourite, although I hate having to wait all day and every day to get them. But perhaps these days I thoroughly enjoy on-the-day racing of 9 and 10 hours.
Yeah.
But probably the long distance is mine.
What lines of flight do you prefer racing?
I'm dead set against the idea of one-line racing because I find it boring. We've done it in my time. But otherwise, I really don't mind. I've often said to people, if they want to send them to Kangaroo Island, I'll send a few, but I guess really the hard headwind racing that you get on the east or the southeast suits me all right.
Where do you see the sport in, say, 10 years' time, Andrew?
Well, I'm ever an optimist, and hopefully we've probably bottomed and we'll be able to continue with 200 plus flyers for a fair long time. I think common sense is going to prevail, and people are not going to want to sit around watching machines all the day. When there's something marvellous out the back, it will hold its own.
Perhaps, Andrew, we can have a look through your lofts now.
Yes, well, you'll find that they're pretty basic and pretty chaotic, but you're very welcome to come and have a look, Bill. But these, I've got 1, 2, 3 compartments along here, and a trapping area, of course.
Yeah.
And then further down there's a fourth compartment that is fully race orientated during the race season. But at the moment I'm breeding in it, and then a couple more stock bobs there, and what I call my stink shed over there.
Yeah.
Determinedly during the racing season, and I do that when they're out. Those two, they're classic gabbies.
I was going to say that they'd have to be.
Yeah.
You can get them straight away.
Yeah. And I'd be absolutely astounded if I didn't crop young gabbies at least half the time in the short racing.
Yeah.
They're pretty healthy lot. As you can see, I don't stand on ceremony. You see those hampers all piled up in the next compartment.
Oh, right, yeah.
But they're nests for now.
Well, that's a good idea.
They fit in there.
Well,
like
why sit them in your shed doing nothing?
Yeah, exactly. And then all the youngs from here are over, and I'll show you them in a minute. I've got 27 of them been going out the last 2 or 3 days. And, yeah, that's half of my first round. The second half comes over tomorrow,
Yeah.
and the second half will be 2/3 gabbies, I'd say.
But you only use those for the middle distance, short and middle distance.
My plan, Phil, of course, which never works,
Yeah.
but my plan is to put some grunt into the gabbies for long distance. And I've had some success. The very successful one up at the Adelaide Club was 3 parts Gabby with the fourth. The grandparent was a Bathurst cock, and they went the distance. And then he's half Gabby too.
Ah, right.
Yeah, with a Buxton and Snyder cock.
Yeah.
Yeah.